Hi everybody, Roger here from Car Experts YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be doing some thrust rods or thrust struts on a BMW 3 Series E90. Now the purpose of these thrust struts are to prevent diving of the front end. So when you're braking, that front end is going to want to dive because that's where all the weight is. This really helps support the suspension and helps prevent that diving. Now when these are going bad, and they can crack and they can leak, you can sometimes replace just the bushing, but on an older car, a lot of times it's a good idea just to do the whole arm itself. You can press these in only one time on a BMW factory arm. Another symptom that you might get is when you're braking, you can actually get a vibration from these when braking, when they're failing. Now, a lot of times a brake vibration is caused from a high spot on the rotor, and not from these, so you always want to try to address that first to make sure that you don't have an issue with your rotors during braking. But if your rotors are in good shape and you know that your vehicle is diving just by braking, you can really feel it dive down, then it's time to replace these thrust struts. Doing this on the ground is going to be a little bit harder, but it would be doable. Thankfully I have a half lift, so it makes my job a little bit easier. Alright, so if you have a stuck on wheel, I like to put one plug in, partially threaded. Take a long pry bar, go right up against the control arm, and just pry gently outwards. Like that. And usually the wheel will pop off for you. With the wheel off, we want to take this cover off, which is held on by these 8s right here, and there's an 8 right here. We want to move this so we can access the back part, because we have to replace the bolt and the nut in the back of the thrust arm. Then we can come here and take the castellated nut off here, and then hopefully we'll be able to whack these off, and it should be a relatively easy install. And there's 110 right up under here, and can take this off. So this is a 24 right here. We're gonna want to zip that off. All right, everybody, so you can use a front end service kit to put pressure on this ball joint right here. But a lot of times on those front end service kits, unless it's a BMW one, it's hard to fit it in this joint because the two nuts that are holding this upper ball joint. So if you take a big mallet and you keep hitting the arm right along here, usually you can get it to separate just by shocking it. There we go. So I don't touch this back screw yet. You can see how loose that is, right? But I did not loosen this back one. I want that tension still there when I whack this. I'm gonna take this plastic nut off here. And one here. So I can pull this back. Now the trick is to pull this back, just get it caught on the caliper, just so that you can get in there and it opens that area up for you. Now you need an 18 here and an 18 wrench to hold the nut in the back, and then your 18, hold the wrench, and go ahead and work that bolt out. You can see the arm now is completely loose. Quick note, there is a special procedure in order to tighten this up. I'm gonna make sure to show you that, so make sure to stay tuned for the full installation. Once the nut is free enough, you should be able to get that off. And then a little wiggle, you can work the bolt off and remove the complete arm assembly. Let me show you just how bad this one is. And this is what you're looking for. Look at all that separation right there. I can move this with just a little screwdriver. That's what you're looking for. Now these are fluid filled, so if you see fluid or oil on the bottom of the arm, it's actually leaking fluid. It doesn't necessarily mean it's failed. It shouldn't leak fluid, but it does still retain its rigidity around the rubber area. But when it's this failed, it has to be replaced because it can cause all sorts of diving and some drivability concerns. Quick little side note, there is a left and a right arm, and on all of these really good arms, It actually says R on it, so you know it's the right side and not the wrong side. Now this is a one-time use nut and bolt, so I do have new hardware, right? And then I have my thrust strut. So make sure you're putting it in the correct way, right? This right here is the bevel that the ball joint goes into. Obviously that has to be facing towards the ball joint. There's an arrow here. If you're pressing in this bushing, that arrow has to line up right here with this notch right here, right? Since we're doing a whole arm, you can just put the bolt in, find the hole, give it a wiggle, slide her in, and get your nut started on the backside. For all the torque specs, check the description box. So just have to bring the arm up. I can actually move this out of my way because I need to bring this forward. Get my ball joint lined up. There we go. Take my new castellated nut, get that started, and let's tighten that up. Good and tight. Alright, let's pull this forward and out of my way again. Now this next step is very critical to the longevity of this part. Alright, so imagine this is installed and you tighten when you actually have the car up in the air, right? So it's actually not in the resting position that it normally is when the car is flat. So you basically would stress that bushing out with the weight of the car. That's not how you want to do this. So you want to leave this back one loose. If you're working on the ground, use another jack up the bottom at the hub assembly so that you can compress the strut and there's weight on it. So basically the car or the strut is in the resting position. That's when you tighten this. That way, when you release it, it's gonna be under stress. But when the car is sitting on the ground, it's gonna be at rest. For me to do this, the way I have this set up, is I'm just gonna take my pole jack, my modified pole jack, and I'm going to compress the shock with my pole jack. Arm is moving up. I want to go all the way up to a resting position. Now that I've done that, I can go ahead and tighten this up. All right, that's it. That's all there is to it. Whoa. Uncompress this. Back as my safety support. Just how I have my half lip set up. I made these because I don't trust it, to tell you the truth. But if I have 4 supports, but with my supports I feel a lot better getting under this car. And you do the same thing on the other side. This is just a plastic push tab here. Then I have the 2 10mm, one here. And one right here. All right, so I have this plastic nut stud here, and this one. Put that on first. Careful not to over tighten these, you'll snap them off. Then we have this piece to put back on, which is held by one of those plastic nuts that I just took back off. Because that goes there. And then here, just get them started. And the 2 under here. Well, that's it. That's how easy it is to replace a thrust strut, at least on a BMW 3 Series. Now, this is very similar on X5, X3s, and most BMWs. They all use the same similar thrust strut. So if you can do one, you could probably do them all. I hope you found this helpful. Please like and subscribe to Ask a Car Expert's YouTube channel, and make sure to watch out for my giveaways coming out in the future. Take care, everybody.